In all colors, shapes, and sizes, they've traveled across the world to flutter through your field of view. But who are these feathered travelers? Today, we fly with the birds and learn a little more about their world. Hello and welcome to another edition of Max Magazine. I'm your host, Brad Grass, and on today's episode, we take to the skies with our fine feathered friends, birds of all shapes and sizes, and well, they're everywhere. Best time of year right now to see them, which is why we're here in the backyard of young Dale Jurtis, who is the president of Nature Regina. Thanks for having us here today.
Thank you.
In your beautiful backyard. The Nature Regina Society here, how long have you been a member of Nature Regina?
30-some years.
30-some years. And it's been around for a while as well.
Yeah, it's been around since the 1930s, so it's one of the older groups in Regina.
Right, right. And it's for anybody who loves all things nature.
That's correct. People who love birds, people who like wildflowers, anything about nature, just getting out in nature, that's what we do in Nature Regina.
And if you like bird watching, I mean, contact Nature Regina and become a member. Is it fair to say that springtime is probably the best time to be bird watching?
It's absolutely the best time. We have birds are coming back. Birds that are nest further north than we are have to pass through so they can show up in the backyard. They're singing, they're in their breeding plumage, so they're in bright colors and attractive to see. Yeah, it's by far the best time.
And they come from incredible distances.
Some of them do. Example, the Swainson's hawk that's common around Regina spends its winter in Argentina, so they've flown all the way from Argentina. Purple martins, which are a type of swallow, they have come from Brazil where they spent the winter, so wow. Those are long ways to fly.
Another bird that travels great distances to visit us every spring is the mighty pelican. Now, we wanted to learn a little bit more about the secret life of these majestic birds, so that's why Max cameras went to the Redberry Biosphere Reserve. You've been there.
I have. It's a beautiful place.
Oh yeah, and Max cameras take you there right now.
We are here at the Weir on the South Saskatchewan River in Saskatoon. What's really great about the Weir here is it's an excellent fishing spot for the American white pelican that comes to Saskatoon and other parts of the Canadian prairies every year to breed. What's handy about our river is with the Weir, the fish come over and then they're discombobulated and all confused, and then that's really easy eating for the pelicans, and there'll be a large number of fish that the pelicans can swim in and eat. The closest nesting site to Saskatoon is Redberry Lake, and so they have a nesting island out there, and there are a few others in the province, but they'll fly as much as 100 kilometers just to eat every day.
It's a designation that is given to special areas around the world that have a core area that is being protected, and the local people think that it's important to protect. From here you can see where the pelicans are nesting on one of the islands. That island is quite a bit smaller than what it was 5 years ago with the water levels coming up. And the way it looks now, in another year or two, the pelicans and other birds that use it might be looking for another island for nesting. I've grown up at this lake. I guess you took them for granted, they were always here. And until you hear about how they were endangered and how it is an important place for them, and then you start watching them closely. And then when you see them flying and swimming and fishing, then you can really spend a lot of time watching them.
Because these birds are so sensitive during their nesting time, what would happen is people wouldn't realize, and they would be, you know, it's this time of year, people are getting back out onto the lake, back interested in, you know, all their fun recreation, or interested in the birds, and so they would try to watch them in their nesting sites. But these birds will fly away and leave their eggs or leave their newly hatched babies, which can die from exposure in 20 minutes to hot or cold. Pelicans are one of those bird species where the male and female actually take turns looking after the eggs and the babies. So what they do is when they're still eggs, they'll take turns sitting on the eggs, keeping them warm, wrapping their feet around them and tucking them in. And then the other one will fly out to get food and eat up, and then they'll come back and they'll switch. So they're on a shift rotation. What's really fun about how they fish is they actually will do it cooperatively. They'll get a few of them and they'll sort of start swimming in a big circle and sort of corral some fish in, and the paddling from their feet makes all these bubbles and the fish aren't sure what's what. And so they sort of come around in a big circle, and then all the pelicans will go down and scoop up all these fish. So they just created themselves a buffet.
There's just the areas right around the islands that you have that are protected, so you stay away from the islands, and it's a big lake to come and enjoy. But you have to be a special person, I think, to come and enjoy, I guess, ecosystem for what it is, and that it's not altered and it's not developed, and you have to enjoy that. It's about education, and it's about sustainable development, the importance of what we have in this province, and let's not destroy it. Let's work with nature and enjoy what we have.
Dale, you've done a spectacular job of recreating your own private bird sanctuary back here in your backyard. And even now, as we mentioned before, we can hear so many different varieties of birds back here. What are some things that people can do at home to attract birds to their backyard?
Yeah, you can do quite a lot, but it really comes down to three things: food, water, shelter. And, you know.
How about food? Is there any special type of bird seed that you pick or lay out, or does it matter?
There are various things in the bird store, you know, the stores sell them, but I'm a big fan of feeding birds sunflower seeds. And so I feed sunflower seeds in the winter. In the spring, I throw sunflower seeds in the lawn to attract the migrating sparrows and so on that are coming through right now, and they love sunflower seeds. High energy food, they get fueled up and can carry on in their migration.
Some wonderful tips to attract birds to your backyard. Or maybe you already have lots of birds in your backyard, but you have trouble identifying them. Well, you're in luck, because our next story is a veritable how-to to identify who's who in the air around you.
About birds, the more you get interested in it, in this hobby. I got interested in it from my dad, who was a birder, and I went out on the Christmas or Boxing Day bird counts that the Nature Society has. That's when I got started. I was probably 6 years old, I think, at that time, and so I've sort of grown up with the Saskatoon Nature Society, and they have field trips and they have bird counts. We'll do a bird count in the fall and another one in the winter time. Our backyard we have converted into a pond and waterfall, which is particularly attractive to songbirds through the summer, and especially in migration season, spring and fall, warblers and thrushes, some finches that migrate through the Saskatoon area en route to their breeding areas up in the boreal forest and say around Prince Albert National Park, Emma Lake, Turtle Lake, that sort of country. So it's the most interesting birds in your backyard are probably the songbirds, and so they want to be able to hide someplace from predators. So you'll notice behind me we've planted a couple of large shrubs, and then as in our case we put a pond and a waterfall in our backyard, which again attracts birds, and they will come out and take a bath in the waterfall or in the splash pool. So that is, I think it's a Swainson's thrush, yes. So that's a migrant. So that's a bird that is going to nest up in the northern forest. And they're very common in the month of May, and again in September, passing through Saskatoon and Regina and all the various towns and cities in Saskatchewan. Today I've seen robins and chipping sparrow, and I had a rather uncommon blue-headed vireo this morning. There's a lot more birds in the migration season, so throughout the month of May, getting into maybe the first week of June, there's a lot of migrant songbirds, and then fall migration, they're even more abundant. Quite often birds will fly into windows and injure themselves, so one feature that's sometimes useful is to put a decal of a hawk or something on a window, and that'll help to prevent the birds from striking the windows. There's a new product out this year which covers the entire window. It's a film, and we haven't tried it yet. We're going to try it later on this spring because I think it may work even better. One thing we might chat about is recommended bird books for people interested in learning and identifying birds in your backyards or on trips that you take in the country or up to the cottage. This Stokes Field Guide to the Birds of North America. This is a photographic guide. This book has got lots of very good photographs, which shows the bird as they really exist, and then there's a description of each bird species and a map of North America, so you can take a look at the map and see whether or not this bird occurs in Saskatchewan. A second highly recommended bird identification guide is a Sibley Guide to Birds. So both of these are highly recommended. This is the book that'll tell you what birds are found in the Saskatoon area and where they are found and when they are found. So it's called Birds of the Saskatoon Area, and again you can pick this up in various bookstores in the Saskatoon area, or you can get it online from Nature Saskatchewan out of Regina. Also, a good way of learning birds is to get involved with field trips that the Saskatoon Nature Society has. We have field trips in the city, walks along parks in the city. We also go on driving trips for an afternoon or a morning or a full day. So there's a wide variety of different field trips. Just choose the ones that you're interested in. And it's an excellent way of learning birds and finding birds for that matter, because the more people are around, the more birds you see. And then there will be experienced birders along who can point out some of the field marks to people who are not so confident about their bird identification ability. We have a bird watching for beginners class that they give from time to time during the year. So check the website, and through the winter months we have a monthly meeting with a guest speaker talking about birds or other wildlife issues in Saskatchewan.
You know, Dale, it's very relaxing just being back here and watching the birds, listening to them. As a bird watcher, is there any special equipment that you need?
The big thing I use, and almost every birder has, is a pair of binoculars. Birds are not that big. The binoculars just let you see them more closely. And there's a lot of color. They're very attractive. You want to appreciate that, and also it helps you identify that bird that's sitting at the other side of the yard.
And you mentioned this before too, springtime. Another reason why springtime is the best time of the year for the birder is the color of the birds. It's brighter in the springtime? For many species it is. A lot of species, the breeding season, part of their breeding thing, they get into a very bright plumage, or at least the males do, and then that bright plumage can make you more vulnerable to predators. Once the breeding season's over, they'll molt into a duller plumage. So often in the fall you got birds coming through, but they're often brown, harder to identify, not as colorful. How about events? Are there big events that you look forward to? Yes, there are. There are a few birding events over the year. One of them actually was just last Saturday that I took part in. There's a birdathon up at Last Mountain Lake at the National Wildlife Area. And a huge event. I mean, this is an annual event at the Last Mountain Bird Observatory. And if you've never been, well, you're in luck, because Mac's cameras take you there right now.
are at Last Mountain Lake Bird Observatory, which is located in the Last Mountain Lake Regional Park at the northern end of Last Mountain Lake. It's a big day for us, so we are doing the Great Canadian Birdathon, as well as we are unveiling a plaque listing all of the contributors to Last Mountain Lake Bird Observatory.
Well, I've been birding now for about 5 years, and I've, done my fair share around the province. I've, gone up north, and also right around Regina is my primary location. And I actually was introduced to it in a school program in grade 11. And ever since then, it's just been a hobby of mine to go out with binoculars and a camera. And it's just really exciting and relaxing to do it.
The thing I like about birds and find fascinating is obviously the flying and the acrobatic ones, but I enjoy the songs in the mornings and stuff, getting up, having breakfast, and just being able to hear all the bird sounds and calls, and it's so varied and stuff. And there's a few calls that are a little harsh that maybe I don't care for, but the songbirds and some of the birds that really surprise you that with their songs that you wouldn't expect to come out of such a small little bird too. So
Last year we caught 90-some species for our Great Canadian Bird Count. So we're a big stop for migration routes, so there's lots of different kinds of bird species. So definitely over 100 birds you'd definitely see out here.
It's 10:36. Okay. And it's a robin.
The four-letter code.
AMRO.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. So, this is a young female robin. And people will say, well, how do you tell? But it's pretty complicated, but basically it's just on the basis of color, brightness of the plumage. The band number is 1352
1352
48286.
48286.
Yeah. You can see through the skin of birds, because their skin is like, well, paper thin. And she hasn't started nesting yet because she does not have a root pack.
See that turn? See how he dove into the water?
See that one right there?
Watch him for a little while.
All bird populations have been declining recently, a lot of it due to climate change and human population encroaching on their habitats. There's been issues with birds hitting windows and house cats. So it's very important. They're very important pollinators as well as important to the ecosystem and food chains, indicating pollution levels and things like that. So it's very important to watch their numbers and make sure that their numbers are remaining stable. The ability to fly is an amazing thing. They're so beautiful to watch. They have such personality even in just watching them flicker among the trees and in the bushes, and so many different lifestyles. Then you can see a bird so many times and always doing something different. So they're really interesting to watch, and you can watch them for long periods of time and never get bored.
I would definitely say bring my family here, and for birding, I'd probably come back as well. Just the mix of the grass, the marsh over there, and the hedgerows, and all the different trees around here, the birch and whatnot, just makes for a good variety. I mean, we did get 52 species.
There's just so many different variety, and I don't think that the public realizes that. They think of, oh, I can see a robin or a sparrow, but you look into these species, and within Canada alone, you can see some like 300-400 species of birds, and it's endless, really. Like, you have to go to certain locations to see some, certain times of the year, and there's so much variety, and it's really, really exciting, and it can be a lifelong ambition to discover all of these different species.
Well, Dale, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for inviting us into your beautiful bird sanctuary today. And lots of tips today, too, if you want to attract birds to your backyard. and have a beautiful experience just like you have each and every day. And springtime is such a short window.
It is.
Here in Saskatchewan. But there's so much beauty to enjoy when it's here. So get out there and enjoy it while you can. And thanks for joining us on another edition of Max Magazine.
If you have program ideas that you'd like to see on Max TV Local On Demand, write us at max.local@sasktel.com. Max TV programming is now available on Max TV on the Go at maxtvonthego.sasktel.com.